everybody. Welcome to today's masterclass. I'm Josefina Sauti, Program Marketing Manager at Zigurat, and thank you all for joining us in today's masterclass about BIM project data management. So a quick overview for those of you who may not know us. So Zigurat is an online institution with over 20 years of experience in e-learning. We basically provide master's and postgraduate programs in architecture, engineering, and tech management. So we have a very, very huge community of people, of students and staff members and faculty board members from all over the world. We have people from more than 20,000 people and from 120 different nationalities. So as you can see there on the photograph, that's a picture of our latest student week. That's our annual event. So we have a very diverse community of people from all professions. So that's a very interesting community we've created over the last years. And related to this masterclass, so we have one of our programs, which is the Masters in Global BIM Management. This is a 1-year program that's given in English. It's live online methodology, and it basically covers all the methodologies, tools, and you have to implement to really use BIM methodology comprehensively in your projects. So it has a double degree, as all of our programs, and it's a really hands-on approach that culminates in a simulation-based exercise. So you can scan the QR code and see more details about it. So without further ado, I'll hand it over to you, Raul. Raul is CTO and CSO for Alers Technologies, and please don't forget to leave your comments in the chat box. Okay, so Raul, I'll start sharing now my screen, and I'll hand it over to you. Thank you. Oh, I can't hear you. I think you're muted. There you go.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the introduction, and I'm very honored to share a little bit about what we do. It's so important to really educate ourselves and learn new things. And so let's see if I can share some of the knowledge, and please at the end ask all the questions that you consider pertinent. All right, first things first, let's introduce ourselves. Who is Alers and what's our relationship with Zigurat? Right, so let's start with that. Well, Alers is basically a holding company, and that is located in the US, funded by 3 investors. One of the investors is Aaron Wolford, who was co-founder of Revit, and then Charles Andrade and myself, and we 3 decided to start looking at this constellation. One of the constellations that got our most interest was the one related to machine learning and deep learning and predictive asset performance, right? But then we realized that basically that constellation is not enough to make the impact that we need in the market. And then we were start to look at the constellation, that is on top, called digital twins. And so we start focusing in how we can link the data analytics with what we call immersed realities. And that's our focus, primary focus, while we are also researching, everything related to marketplace for construction. But that's another project. So we started the process of patenting our own data automation engine, which is basically a light data management system. You should think about this as a smart drop-off or the smart SharePoint. But the idea is that we want to make it simple. We want to simplify everything, right? And having this LEMS will allow us to provide data insight with immersed reality experiences. And that's why we are hopeful that we will be able to achieve that. So we strongly believe in human capital, and Errol as a co-founder of Revit, and Charles as a co-founder of Smart Being, and myself, who I am Hispanic. We decided that the human capital is in Iberoamerica. Not that it's just in Iberoamerica, but we believe that that the fact of being adoption is going to push all of those countries in that territory to excel. We have great professionals, and so we are convinced about that. And we basically all of our team comes from that territory, and those are experts in different areas of software, as well as most of them are architects and civil engineers. Um, so that's what we are betting on. Um, so we have a branch, a subsidiary in Peru called BIM. We bought them off, so we basically have all the shares of BIM, and BIM in the term of 2 years achieved all of what you see in this screen. Um, Basically, they were, involved in the first 3D virtual trade show for Iberoamerica, attracting more than 19,000 visitors. This happened we have the COVID nightmare, and that really was a very nice breakthrough from Greenbright. And they did also 3D virtual immersive Six Sigma Studio simulation with Volpexi. Basically, they were simulating a factory, um, and very involved in different lean IPD, speaker engagements. But lastly, the big breakthrough that they accomplished, which is now alerts, is to be able to apply what we are going to see in the next slides, how we can apply real-time data for monitoring and control. And we put all of that thought together, mixing what we call parametric data correlated with other third-party data sources with a special 3D images. And so that when you do a click in one KPI, key performance indicator, it will basically give you the spatial context around it. We will talk more about that. So this global company, Owen, Illinois, helped us to put that idea and make it as a product. All right. So let's talk about data. Data. Data is very complex, and if you don't realize, all of us are point clouds. That's what I share with my students when we touch upon the module number 5 in one of the masters in Sigurad, is the construction project management master. And I tend to tell them, you don't realize, but we are just data. We carry a lot of information. And so if we go to the content that, every point that has 3 dimensions gives information, that means that we really are in a very sweet spot in this industry. And there is another concept also called entanglement, which looks very mystic. And what is entanglement means is, entanglement is a complicated or compromising relationship or situation, right? It's a compromising relationship. And why is a compromising relationship? Is because you need to make sense of what you are having as data. Data by itself is nothing. It doesn't give you information. I repeat, data by itself doesn't give you nothing. It doesn't give you information. And what happened is that in this industry, we have a lot of data, a lot of decision needs to be made. a lot of things needs to happen to make this data to be converted and information that is going to be valuable. But the point is this, that under the context of our industry, we have a challenge. And what's the challenge? The challenge is that in order for us to make this data to be converted in valuable, there are many things that need to change in the way how we think and in the way how we operate. So we think about as cheap as possible mentality. That doesn't help really. The fact that the 2D plans do not provide enough spatial context, that's a problem. The georeferential problems in BIM model is a problem. The not trustworthy data in the BIM models is really a problem. And the complex workflows is a problem because it doesn't allow us for efficient collaborations. Lack of accountability is a problem. And we can keep going and going. But I will just tell you two that you need to be aware. The fact that our professionals doesn't still have the capabilities of problem solving or making an analysis. Why I am putting this in my BIM execution project plan, what I'm trying to accomplish, right? And that has to be with critical thinking. That's one big problem. The second problem is the second big problem is the fact of not defining the requirements correctly, not having standards correctly. And when I say correctly, I am not asking for you to do super duper highly detailed standards, but a standard that everybody can feel that makes sense in your company. And finally, the fact that we are not learning lean processes, how to really optimize, or let's put it this way, optimize operations so that it doesn't produce waste. And waste can be seen as waste of time and waste of money. But not just that, but the data governance, how we are going to get all of this information. Now we're talking about information, and how we are going to order this information to provide us value, right? So that's the point. And so when you see this, these rounds that I did, limitation of the use of information at the project execution stage, useless asset in the stage of the operation and maintenance, those are the main ones, like how I'm going to make use that my project keeps going. So that's if we understand that, I think we just go big on this, right? So this is just a summary of what I mean by what I just said. Problem solving, no standardization, failure to adapt new technologies, and problems utilizing resources. Raise your hand how many times your company has bought things that you don't use. A lot, right? So we go deeper into now how we are going to make this work. We are clear that what you can manage what you don't measure. Basically, how you will be able to be a great project manager if you don't have all the data that you need to take decisions. What happens if you have 5, 10, 20 projects coming concurrently to you? How you're going to make it work? How you're going to make it work so that everybody understands what you're trying to accomplish, right? So that's sort of the questions that we need to ask ourselves, how we can scale our capabilities, right? So we understand that, as you know, or you will know, BIM has a phase, different phases, from the planning, the designing, the construction phase, and then you have the operations and maintenance phase, right? Well, we are not placing everything here because of time, But we just focusing in the design phase, in the construction phase. We have a lot of data that is generated by inserting information through the BIM models, right? Not just the BIM models, but there are other softwares that we will use, like for planning and budgeting. So we can say fairly that there is a lot of data being produced, and that will convert in valuable information. But when that information is not valuable to you, it will go against you, right? So that's why I'm just trying to point that out. Most of your company has PMO areas, project management organizations, and you have specific metrics. And some of those metrics are derived from the BDC metrics. Those are important, but many times you don't know how to do it. So that's what we're going to talk about. So BIM, I think at this stage, we have cared about a lot about BIM, right? We sometimes people has this misinformation that BIM is ready. BIM is not ready. Neither BIM is IFC. Revit and IFC are just formats, are file formats, in fact. So that's not real BIM. BIM is a methodology that takes three clusters, let's put it that way. The digital model, the fact of standardizing the shared data, and the workflow management. So in summary, I will say BIM is a methodology, right? But this methodology has challenges. Unfortunately, the adoption of BIM has been very slow. Has been very slow, not because people doesn't want to do BIM, it's because in order to do BIM, in order to really do a project in BIM, we have to take some steps. The first step is a standardized process. And many people, well, many students ask me how we do the standardization. And I will say, well, start reading the 19650 ISO. Right? It's a lot of paper, it's huge. But at least give you an idea of how the data is start moving from one bucket to another bucket, right? Integration issues is another one. Resistance to change. When the CEO of the company is saying that this is a waste of time, that's a bad start. So leadership needs to understand that this is an investment and it will take some time, but we can plan this all around by training your own people. The IT security concerns, BIM implementation costs and complex software and training. So those are the challenges. But if we don't face these challenges, it has consequences. And it does have consequences. So that's why most likely it's going to be reflected in a productivity gap, right? So the productivity gap is quite enormous when you compare the AEC industry versus other industries. So this is not a secret, right? But what we're going to do about it? Well, identify where these gaps are and but what's the monetary impacts of not doing what we are supposed to do, right? Most of the impacts are in the rewards, are pointing to the rewards, right? The rewards that has to deal with hours that are waste. That's where the lean concept comes in and helps to reduce the waste, right? So if you're going to spend 4 hours in a day to resolve the reward issues, that's a big waste, right? From the monetary project costs of the project, 4 to 6%. And the miscommunication and poor project management, 48%. That's what Autodesk is stating in his business analysis. But let's put it in numbers. What this means, if you had a project of $20 million, I was asking our students, which are directors of different construction companies, and I asked them, when you had a project of $20 million, what's the contingency margin for rework? They say, hey, it's between 18 to 25%. And I said, really? And they say, even could be more. And I believe that. So let's start doing some math, right? So if you have $20 million for a project, so you need to have 3.6 million as your rework cost. So you will have this somewhere, right? And then I ask them, where you put your, this margin, how we are gonna, where do you think this waste is coming from, right? I said, not our construction phase, because if we didn't do any good designing planning, that construction phase is gonna take it quickly. Like if I have a clash that was not identified in our designing phase, to fix it on the site is terrible. We need to shut down the operation for a week, redo everything, and we keep going. And then we have to design again, and we need to do a project scheduling again. So that's basically how the impact will be in a reward, right? So I believe they were totally right. And I think they are short in putting that margin. And then I asked them, well, what's the other thing that you struggle that will cause, your PMO team struggle and your engineers and etc. I said, you know what? We are highly fragmented in everything that we do, from the software that we use for planning, the software that we use for budgeting, the software that we do for almost everything. And it is a nightmare to start like learning a little bit of this and this, but it's what we need to do, right? And I say, yes, that's unfortunately one solution doesn't cover all. So that's a challenge, and it may prompt to issues if you don't know what you're doing, right? So what I want to say is this. So what we look is, from all what I have shared with you, when you say, well, the BIM models are not working correctly, etc., there is something more that we are not looking, right? We look just the surface, but then the dig down, we know that there is something that we are not doing right, because it's like there's a core foundation, and that's what Sigurad, through their master's program, are trying to fix, right? And we as a company, as an alerts, where we realize also that is that there is plenty of information, data that is not being used, data that is not being automated, and that is making cause all of those inefficiencies not to, fade out, right? So, but looking into that, we decided to tackle all those inefficiencies, and we say, let's simplify all of those silos. How we are going to do that? And because at the end of the day, what you care is about having a project monitoring and risk management control for your projects, so that you can manage 10, 20 projects at the same time, right? 5, 10, 20, doesn't matter. But that's realistic. Under the current circumstances of what we have just seen, that's almost impossible. Unless if we start doing some data automation that will allow us to increase productivity. But we need to simplify. So how we are going to simplify that? Well, first things first. We cannot simplify anything if we don't understand what we need to automate, right? What we need to make it simple, easy, right? And in order for that to happen, we need to have critical thinking, what we have been talking about before. How I'm going to resolve a problem. That's the first thing. The second thing is how I'm going to establish a data governance so that the data start making sense, and how I will use that data that will convert into information to give me business intelligence, to be able to really take that information and convert into valuable to me, a good data insight. This is not about having just a template. This is about putting your brain together, contextualized in a way that it will be used for maximizing productivity, which will give you a key performance indicator that you will follow through the start to the end of the project, from the design to the execution, right? And on top of that, you're gonna start cleaning, meaning if you have a waste, using lean concepts, you will be able to optimize, whatever you need to optimize. All right. All of this looks very, I will say, easy to say, difficult to do it, right? I am with you. We thought the same, but actually could be done. Could be done if you have an abstraction layer, we call data automation, where you take all of those sources of data or each software that comes. So for us, it's just data. But then we are going to have a meaning from that data. We are start doing associations between one software that has to do with budget, with other software that has to do with planning, and with one software that needs to do with modeling. So comes to us as data. We will correlate those sources of data, associate them, and then we are going to extract that and we are going to put it into the model into a very nice dashboard. And that's what you are seeing on the bottom, right? So that is what we want, right? So yes, looks complicated, but it's easy when you know what you want to measure. In this case, this company wants to measure total volume and total cost. Simple. That was his goal, right? But in order to achieve that, there is a different role that needs to happen within your organization. Now, we are not talking just about being manager. We are talking about being data, like in capital letters manager, right? So this individual needs to be very clever and understanding the bin tables and possibilities that he can do with these bin tables. Like start thinking how I'm gonna associate this bin table with another tables that doesn't have to deal with my, let's say, my modeling software. Maybe now I have to think how I'm gonna link this with a Solibri software, right? I don't know. So that's the kind of thinking that this big data manager needs to have. Then the project manager needs to evolve his education to be a project data, capital letters, manager. So that means that this project manager now needs to have in his mind a way of thinking that he needs to automate things. So he's going to be in his mind defining what areas of the workflow needs to be automated and give those requirements to the BIM data manager. Right. Along those lines, he needs to define the KPIs that are relevant. And those conversations need to be discussed internally with the owners. You see how this is evolving, right? So how we are going to start doing this? Well, basically, the data automation, we have our own engine that automates all this table. And then we have other scripts and software that we have sort of handcrafted due to our previous experience with another client. And we understand now that how we can do all of these works, right? So this data automation and that insight happens at the Power BI, which is a visualization software that gives you business intelligence. And so we were able to associate data from the models while associating also that data with the 4D, 5D, 6D, 7D softwares, right? At the end, we have this very beautiful and nice, easy to use project monitoring and risk management control that give better productivity, right? So, obviously, when we talk about putting all these things together, we need to define it into a document that maybe you are familiar with. And if you are not, it will be something that you will learn while doing specialized classes for BIM, like the BIM Master, BIM Global Master, which is called the BIM Execution Project, right? The BED. In the BED, you define all the requirements, and that's where we need to define how we are going to do all those processes. In our case, our particular solution provide, like I said, a way that you put your Revit file or your IFC file, and then we do the magic on the back end. And what we are gonna do afterwards is giving you the Power BI templates that you will be able to modify after you have been trained, of course. And then you will be able to create all of this data automation yourself if you want it to be implemented in your companies, right? But in order to do that, we need to train. So but you see all of the different options that you can think of could be done. It's just to really understand how you're going to use the BIM tables, how you're going to define the KPIs, etc. And this could be beautiful projects, like can involve, from integration from SAP, from integration Microsoft Project Online. One of the things that we are delivering with our solutions is in our near roadmap is that also the inclusion of AR experiences, augmented reality experiences, so that you will have this in the dashboard for your project management team. But if you want to show specific things, tasks, let's put it that way, and you want to show it the augmented reality of that task, which is basically a construction, built out, we will be able to do it, right? That's one of the things we are doing. All right. I'm going to go very fast. I think we are short on time now. But basically, if you are somewhere here, either you're a BIM modeler, either you're a BIM specialist, either you're a BIM coordinator or a BIM manager, there's knowledge that you already have that obviously will be excellent if you can upscale your core competencies in what you already know to the next level. And what the next level is going to be is start learning how to do analytics, because what we just showed you is a way of doing analytics. We call it descriptive analytics. It describes something happening in real time, right? So that's for the big model and BIM especially, it would be nice to know if all the parameters has been filled correctly, for instance, right? If they have not been filled correctly, where I can identify them. A big manager, you have different projects. This is a big manager that has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 construction projects, and he wants to manage it, those 5, right? But in order to do that, there is some work that needs to be done so that he can, be able to monitor, for instance, advancements or scheduling of each project versus cost. That would be an interesting one, right? Or PMOs that has a specific mandate from the owners, right? And they need to handcraft, the specifics of what is important for the owner, right? So that's another way to do it, right? So because we want to make it easier, we sort of provide all of those back office experiences where you can put your Revit. We sort of model those Revits into another format that will allow you to see that project in Revit online as a 3D visualization. And then we take all of this data, we will analyze the data, and we will give you the database related to that data, right? We will give you a template so that you have a point of reference. We will discuss which templates you want to use, right? And if you don't have that template that suits your needs, that means that we need to customize that one. And then from that point on, the training starts. Sigura has been very active in teaching students, not just academics, like, just content, but apply the content for each professor into a real project. My colleague will expand more on that, but that's the best value you can get. It's not just the certification, which is very important, but it's the fact that you will apply all knowledge on the job. Obviously, one of the things that we will encourage to be included is how to be able to do all of those automations that you see on the left, which is basically BIM data management, and how to scale the project manager capability so that he can handcraft mentally, and then he will be able to execute this with specific requirements regarding a KPI that will be used from the start of the project to the end of the project. And for that, I think the proposal of the Master in Global Risk Management plus a specialized training that takes into problem solving, data management, cloud computing, our solutions, what is Power Query means, what is a BIM data dimensional architecture, data governance, correlation, task programming, and dashboard are very relevant. For us, right now, we start to look very carefully to the predicting and prescriptive. We understand that there are a lot of companies that want to jump right now into machine learning AI in this industry. But honestly, I think the first thing that we need to do is to order the house. First of all, one step at a time. Do the script in real time now. Put all the data governance now. Then we can move forward. You're not going to do predictive, neither prescriptive if you don't have the data harmonized. So we need to tell, basically the truth as far as what is reality and what is not reality, right? Conclusions. I think it's a great possibility for BIM managers and project managers to become BIM data managers with data capital letters and project data managers. We see a BIM data manager capable to architect business intelligence solutions under the BIM context. We see the project data manager emerge as a professional with a very in-depth expertise of problem solving and critical thinking that will allow him to craft good KPIs that make sense, that will be able to do all of the risk management from the start of the project to the handoff of the project. Finally, I think this is the most important. I hear a lot of colleagues, students complaining about the fragmented ASC ecosystem. That's gonna stay. What we need to do is to create the abstraction layer. And the most important is to invest in human capital so that we know how we can take all of this data from the fragmented ecosystem to make it useful so that we can have ASC sustainable projects. That's my message to you. So keep going forward, and I am able now to hear some questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Raul. Sorry, I think I can manage to put on my camera, but that was a very, very complete presentation. I was thinking about questions, and then you immediately answered them after that. So I think it was very complete. I don't know if anyone has a question. Maybe you can open your mic now or drop the question in the chat box. I was thinking, Raul, as you exposed your presentation, that given your experience, like real case studies of people following this simplification process. So you mentioned many challenges like critical thinking, data management, project management. So if you had to identify like the biggest roadblock people have when streamlining these processes, what would you say? And what's the skill gap, the most important skill gap you see today in the market?
Yeah, I think the skill gap that I see in the market is the concept of uh, uh, I want, with all due respect, just I have to say it, but it's the follower concept. What's the follower concept? The follower concept is somebody that follows somebody else because that somebody else do something, and that guy did something that another follower did. So it's like a chain, right? But they never stop saying why I am doing it. Does this really work for me?
Mm.
It's gonna resolve my problem, right? So sometimes we don't stop and say, hey, is this really resolving my problem or not? Or just copying what other has done. If you make a pause and say, I'm gonna do now my own solution, I'm gonna innovate in my own company, you need tools, and those tools are given to you through Sigurat. Um, you know, the first tool is to start a methodology of critical thinking. 3 years ago, with one academic director in Sigurat, we sort of modify uh, a McKinsey consulting and co-problem solving framework, which is a public domain actually, but we contextualize it into being a BDC. And that was great because it's, from that point on, a student has been able to open their minds and say, okay, I'm not gonna copy, I'm gonna use what really helps me, right? And we have great success stories as far as they being able to do great deliverables in their projects now. So that's
Okay, great, thanks.
right.
So if we don't have any more questions, I think we can finish it here. Raul, thank you very much. That was very interesting. And Thank you everyone for joining us today. And well, of course, this session is being recorded, and people who have joined us will receive, everybody will receive a recorded copy of this masterclass. Okay. So thank you, Raul. Thank you very much, and hope to see you soon for another event. And thank you everyone for joining us.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate it.
Bye.